Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's time now to review headlines on today's newspapers with the Ombudsman of This Day and Arise Media Group and This Day Newspaper Limited Group Executive Director Kayode Komolafe. Good morning, KK.
Good morning, Adisha. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you. I was waiting for it.
Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.
All right, let's go into the newspaper review. We'll start, as always, with This Day. On Sunday, the newspaper of record. The lead story of This Day today, like a good number of the dailies, it's on what is going on, the war that is going on in Iran. And we have just had the ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Iran to Nigeria, His Excellency Ambassador Gholam Reza Mahdavi Raja, having the right of reply to the issues raised by the Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, Michael Freeman, and of course on the state of the war itself. And it was clear, as you know, KK, I'm sure that you follow the interview, that there's no more negotiation. He gave 3 conditions upon which resolution can be achieved, and essentially saying, get out of our space, stop the carnage, and respect our sovereignty. Those are the things that he was talking about. Other than that, he says that Iran is ready to go the long haul and defend its people. And he's saying that, life is going on well in Iran and that people are having fun, which is a sharp contrast to the videos that are circulating, on of the bombardments on a daily basis that we have witnessed so far in the last 8 days. Thousands of people already have died, and the infrastructure that is being destroyed, public offices, etc. So it is on that note that the lead story of today's This Day is about Trump vows to escalate war. Iran regrets strikes on Neighbours, apologizes. And then the riders, Iranian body to choose next supreme leader within 24 hours. We will continue with all our force, says Netanyahu, that's the Prime Minister of Israel. And then report says Russia providing Iran intel to strike U.S. assets. Arab League to meet today. All these stories are basically, all these issues on the cover of This Day today are part of what the ambassador of Iran either, hinted at or directly spoke to. He also spoke about the Russian involvement without necessarily saying, that Russia is providing intelligence. He did mention that Russia and Iran are indeed collaborating because they have always collaborated, and that it should not be unexpected, therefore, that they will be speaking to Russia for whatever might be necessary because they are, they are an item. He also spoke about the fact that, the writers here are pointing at, the fact that a new supreme leader will be chosen. He didn't say 24 hours, but he mentioned the fact that Trump will have no say in who they choose to replace the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini. And the fact that, yes, the president, Masoud Pezeshkian, did apologize to neighboring countries, but with the caveat that, yes, Iran will still strike any neighbor that is considered to be yielding a space for America or Israel to launch attacks on them. Those are the key stories that are contained in the lead story of This Day today. Trump vows to escalate war. Iran regrets strikes on neighbors, apologizes. On top of that is back home, where the president of the Senate, Akpabio, is speaking, and he says opposition parties will remain in confusion till after 2027 election. That is Godswill Akpabio there. And on top of the masthead, Shetima to insurgents, Tinubu government will not be cowed by attempts to undermine nation's collective peace. We did mention, why the position of the vice president is very, crucial, given that he was governor for 8 years in Borno, which is now one of the biggest theaters of terror attacks in Nigeria. And not only that, during the campaign, he did mention that he will, like to be in charge of security, even though the president as the commander-in-chief, given that he's an accountant, will be in charge of the economy. It is obvious, of course, that there are turning points that we have recorded in the economic, sphere of things, but in the security and fight against terror, we will need to know what in specific terms the vice president, has done as to his promise. The story on the window: to avert potential vulnerabilities, CBN directs commercial banks to conduct stress tests. Banks deposit 61.1 trillion naira with Apex Bank in February of 2026. Here is CBN asking that to avert potential vulnerabilities, commercial banks must conduct stress tests. But yesterday, CBN did announce that how many banks? 30, have met the threshold, for recapitalization, which is good news. But it's saying, hey, we can, rest on our oars, conduct stress tests so that we know truly how solid you are. And last but not the least is the story, the strip below on the cover of this day. Marketers seek federal government's intervention as Middle East crisis pushes petrol price above 1,000 naira per litre. That's where we are today. It has affected, petrol. It has affected diesel. It has also affected, cooking gas everywhere. And we're now feeling, the impact 8 days after. When will this stop? Nobody knows. Iran, through the ambassador, says will fight till as long as necessary. America, Israel, also saying that victory, fight on until victory is achieved.
Well,
and
Trump says they're already winning. He said that he says they have won, and that the UK is now sending aircraft. He's rejected Starmer.
Why you said anything?
That we've already won. So that's a lot of confidence from the US president.
So should we
On
say
a
that
scale of 1 to 10, he has scored America between 12 and 15.
12 and 15. you did listen to him quite well. And then will this last for between 4 and 6 weeks, as he said? We don't know. But then it's tough to defeat, somebody with who is resolved, not to surrender. But we'll see how it goes. Are we interested in the cover picture? Mega endorsements ahead of 2027. It says, and I think that's showing Akpabio there. That's where Akpabio actually spoke.
It goes with the story. Yeah.
Absolutely, it goes with the story.
Below the masthead.
All right. So, Keke, those are the stories. Iran's ambassador has spoken. And
again, it's a potpourri,
yes.
International relations story, security, economic, and other issues. So maybe we should take both the story of this day,
yes,
and the strip. That is the story of
the marketers seeking federal government's intervention
because they are related.
Yeah.
They are actually part of the same story. That is how what is happening in Iran, how it affects us. And idea is that is just only in one aspect, because we should also be worried how it will also affect, our security. We're talking about what's going on in Iran. It is tragic, but if it is not stopped now, and I mean, like America is projecting 46 weeks,
4 to 6 weeks.
I mean, 4 to 6 weeks, strike, of continuing the strikes on Iran. That is Israel and America. Already what has happened is of tragic proportion. But if it continues, I imagine in 4 or 6 weeks' time, it may become a catastrophe. Because given the firepower of America. Of America and Israel, on Iraq. Now, yes, what is happening is clear. Both Israel and America they have shown absolute contempt for international law. Trump has not even shown respect even for American law in the sense that, I mean, this war that is waging has not got the approval of Congress. So if you ask them, on the basis of which law can this war be justified? And I dare say that, yes, we can find justification in one law, and that is the law of jungle. Yes, that is the only law existing on which this war can be justified.
Yeah, but the Congress has given him, the authority to proceed in America.
No. The vote was that is the process. Yeah. The law says that it should get the Congress approval, but because of the majority of the Republicans in the Congress, that was
the Congress is binding. The decision of the Congress is binding.
What I'm saying is that previous wars in America, there have been wars that have been fought that the president will go to Congress, to seek approval. But that is not even the important. That is within American affairs. But then you have the international law. You have the United Nations. The United Nations was established, basically for the purpose of maintaining world peace and ensuring security of everybody. America, by its action, has rendered, the United Nations almost irrelevant, and as a result, international law does not apply. So if international law does not apply, and I say that the law that is applied internationally today is the law of jungle, and that is the danger for all humanity, because in the law of jungle, nations are categorized into two. You have nations that have deemed themselves to be predators, and the other nations are preys. So whenever the predator is hungry, or is, feels like has the feeling, jumps on the prey. And I'm saying that in viewing it, the rest of humanity, you know the implication of this, because as we have seen, it's just with the petrol price, disruption of business, aviation industry disrupted. Okay, these are consequences, but I'm saying that the greater consequence is that that the security of the world is the danger, and then it should be seen on that basis, because what you're having on display is clearly a display of impunity. The president of one country, you are saying that you are going to decide for another country who is going to be under which law? That to me is an affront to human civilization. I thought human civilization has gone beyond that. That could have been crudity. That could have been barbarism. What is being on display is barbarism.
No, it
is not. It should not be rationalized.
Just basically voiced out what most American presidents have always done.
No, but yes, I agree with you. But the difference is that American imperialism has always been showing this its face. But I'm saying that this is a very crude face. This face of American imperialism is the crudest that has been shown. Yes, I agree with you.
Yes, that is what I also said.
Imperialism has always been there, but either two, you'll be very subtle. You'll be very subtle, I've been trying to pretend.
Not always subtle. Not always subtle.
Okay, yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. But they try to maybe better nuance,
I get your point.
Yes, but the truth is that the truth that we're having on display today is that this is a very crude face of imperialism, and I'm saying that it should be a concern for our collective humanity.
True.
Nobody should have the right. No nation, no particular nation, should have the right to say that you determine the fate, of the world, depending on your whim. It is dangerous, and this is not a thing that the rest of the world should rationalize. That's what kind of theory, international relations expert talking about power theory, is power relations or whatever. It goes beyond that,
Yeah, but you can also discountenance power theory. In all history.
Yes, I'm not discountenancing it, but I'm saying that it does not justify what is going on.
It doesn't.
Yes. While I respect those views, but the worry, I'm saying that we should be worried that in 2026. Yeah. In 2026, that we should still be having this level, especially having given the role the United Nations, since 1945, has played in trying to bring some kind of order, After all, the rules-based order, on which which had existed until Trump, began to dismantle it. It was written, not by African countries, not by Latin American countries, because by the time it was written, some countries in the world today who are members of the UN were colonies then. They had no say in it. It is the same West, led by America, commendably, that, wrote this rule, and the whole world embraced it, and it has been good, by and large, it has been good, for humanity,
Yes, if we're talking about the UN is now facing a sort of existential crisis because of lack of funding, particularly lack of funding from America and lack of funding from other member states.
What do you mean particularly from lack of funding from America?
Because
everybody should pay up.
No,
Which is what America is saying.
No,
everybody should pay up.
Excuse me, what I mean there is that the crisis is because of, in particular, America withdrawing funding because of the size of their contribution. That is why I said in particular America. But going further to what happened, in Lebanon.
You are right. That is why, America is a major funder because given his stature, his power, and I agree with you, it did not start with Trump, For quite some time, it has embarked on this process of defunding, America, and now it has got to its climax.
Yes,
completely.
But the reason I brought that up particularly is because Ghana has now called for a UN probe as Israeli supported. Expect what is believed to be Israeli strikes on UN installations in Lebanon hit the Ghanaian UN troops that were there. And so we're still seeing the international rule-based order, people trying to maintain it in some sort of way. And what we are seeing is that most of the people who are pushing for this are the global south countries that were colonies. And when this rules-based order was first formed. But that's where, I was going with that, is that, this conflict is going to possibly draw more countries in than we are originally seeing. And the fact that this necessary fiction of America as the good guy has faded away is because America has decided it does not need to be a moral actor anymore. There does not need to be a boogeyman or a bad guy that scares the rest of the world. That it can do this and do so for other nations' resources and say so openly. And I think it's not just frightening to us here in Africa. As we see 10 northern European countries, Sweden, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Denmark, coming together for an evacuation plan for their citizens in the case of an outbreak of war. And we have to understand that people are taking it seriously, that we're in a different era.
It is scary. It is scary indeed, yeah.
So do you want to touch on any other story, or should we go to This Day Style?
This Day Style.
Okay, yeah. This Day Style, please.
Well, it's a special edition of This Day Style today, as it is International Women's Day, and some of my favorite Nigerian women are on the cover of This Day Style, so I'm very excited about this. This Day Style special edition today features all of the women who will be honored at the Women of Impact in Africa Awards 2026 today by Arise News. And you see there on the front page Gbemi Shashore, who's the chief executive of Kuramo Publishing, and she also hosts the Kuramo competition for writers competition for young Nigerian writers to support the arts there. We also see Oyinkan Badijo Okunsoya, who is a lawyer, a partner at ALP, and she's also a senior advocate of Nigeria and running to be the president of the Nigerian Bar Association. And we still, till today, have never had a woman be the president of the NBA, which is very bizarre, 2026. But again, that's what we were talking about earlier. We have not had woman NBA president of the country or governor, so being elected. So that's very interesting. We also, of course, have Dr. Maima Bello Osage, who's a partner emerita at Udodoma and Bello Osage. We have Nike Ogunlesi there, who's the founder of Rough and Tumble and an entrepreneur focused on children and children's garments.
They'll be honored this evening?
Yes. Okay. We have, these are the women. Look at their faces there. We have Erelu Bisi Fayemi, who is one of the most brilliant Nigerian women I've ever actually come across, who's an advocate for people so these are some of the women there. These are, some of their titles, some of the things that they've been doing. We also have Layal Tinubu. We have Diola Atalade. So there are people from the creative space as well. And we also have women who are also not from Nigeria. So it is a wide array of women.
Media, anyone there?
Well, Diola Atalade.
Media.
Is that not media? or you mean, well, we have Abike Dabiri Erewa, okay. Yes. And so we have Tolu Koka, who is the young Nigerian woman who the king was at her fashion show recently in England, King
I think
Charles.
all their pictures and short bios was in yesterday's This Day.
And also in the...
The copy of
fantastic.
Has all the pictures and the bios of all these women. So when you open the newspaper, you get to see why these women are being honored. For example, with Erul Fayemi, it says, Bisi Adeleye Fayemi, feminist advocate, author, and policy leader, co-founded the African Women's Development Fund, Africa's first continent-wide women's rights grant-making body. As First Lady of Ekiti State, she advanced gender-responsive laws, including the Gender-Based Violence Prohibition Act and Equal Opportunities Bill. A creator of the Africa Women's Leadership Institute and a senior advisor to UN Women Nigeria, she has trained thousands of emerging leaders honored across Africa. Her career bridges philanthropy, governance, movement building, and feminist intellectual tradition.
You're a big fan, aren't you?
Of Erulu Fayemi. Yes! I have seen her work.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, when I look up to women and I look up to people, I really respect people who who the proof is in the pudding, who do the work. And Erulu Fayemi is someone who does the work, particularly, with the Equal Opportunity Bill. This is a bill I've sat with, I've read, and so people whose advocacy and life's work positively impacts the lives of people that they will never even meet is the type of people that I look up to. Absolutely. And I think her impact is clear. Very clear for anyone. If you have the eyes, you will see it.
And her husband compliments her, very well too. Dr. Kadi Fayemi, a brilliant mind, successful guy.
Great.
Congratulations to all the women.
Yeah. Congratulations to all.
We will toast to
all the women
to their day. Later this evening at a quote.
Can I say something? Because today actually it's International Women's Day.
Yes.
So if you ask me, the story of the day, actually is the story. Is the story of the female gender, actually, that we'll talk about. First is to congratulate all the winners, of this award, and also to congratulate Arise for being so thoughtful, in honoring the African women, that is the theme, African women on this International Women's Day. And it's quite appropriate that this day style, has made it to be its cover. It's quite a fitting one. But to also just make two quick remarks.
Yes.
Now, while it's very important and it's a great thing, that we celebrate these women, representing, the female gender, for their remarkable, personal achievements, that is showing the possibilities, within the female gender. That the occasion of the International Women's Day is also an occasion to reflect on the gender question.
Absolutely.
And that in our own context here in Nigeria, that the gender question is real, and is still present. That is a day to reflect on the question of oppression, which is defined by gender. That is like we call it as a gender, on the basis of reproduction. That is relations of reproduction. That is how the gender relates. Let me just give you one example about this oppression. Until recently, in this Nigeria, a female policewoman could not get married, until she had taken a suitor to the boss, to the commissioner of police, for screening. That is, marriage is supposed to be a personal thing, whatever, Whereas that rule, it was in the police rule, that rule did not apply, to men, and it continued until about 15 years ago, when an organization called Women Empowerment and Legal Aid, WELA, chaired by Mrs. Fumi Falana, SAN, went to court and challenged the law, and the court ruled that the law is discriminatory, against the female gender. And up to now, there hasn't been any appeal, to reverse the law. So, as you lawyers will say, that is the position of the law. But I'm saying that very oppressive, law, was in operation in this country until about 15 years ago. Now, there was another occasion of a female police woman, who got pregnant, while in serving because she had not got married. And on the basis of that, the police dismissed, the Nigerian police, dismissed her. The offense was that she got, pregnant, Now, the same WELA, chaired by Mrs. Fumi Falana, SAN, joined, represented the woman in court, and the court ruled that what the police did was oppressive, that it was wrong, and she was reinstated. Finally, the other example I want to give is that this affirmation question about 35% representation,
Yes.
Now, some women organizations, including WELA, to the International International Association of Female Lawyers and the rest, had to go to court to challenge. That all governments, all tiers of government in Nigeria, should comply the law. Should comply with the law, and the court ruled. That it was, that the position of the law is that the question of 35% female representation, is compulsory, for all. Again, that is the position of the law. It has not been changed. Now, it's on occasion like this, it is a matter of regret that in most states of the federation, that 35% representation, whether in the executive or the affirmative action, is never reflected, In fact, it is more. It is more regrettable, even at the national level, that you have how many senators?
We have 4 out of 109 senators being women.
Exactly.
We have 17 out of 360 members of the House of Representatives being men. And in fact, Nigeria's representation at 4 to 5% is one of the worst in Africa and in the world.
Compare with South Africa, Namibia, Rwanda, where
Kenya,
you had
Ghana, we even have, even when you look even in our own neighborhood, the fact that less than 10%, we have 5% representation for women. It is absolutely abhorrent. Nigeria is actually one of the most difficult places and worst places when it comes to women's participation in politics and political leadership. And when people talk about affirmative action for women in politics, people act as if women are asking for a handout or they're asking for something simple. There is no way that half of your population can be economically or politically disadvantaged and the actual country itself will move forward. It's impossible. Nigeria cannot move forward if women are held behind, or if they're held behind from positions of political leadership where it matters the most. Of course, the president promised some sort of affirmative action and representation. We've seen some women in his cabinet, some young women, and some women in important positions. But when we look at our elected offices in Nigeria, that is not reflected at all. I misspoke earlier when I said there had never been a female NBA president. There's actually one, Priscilla Kuye. She was a female NBA president, but she's the one and only. But again, it is absolutely bizarre that these are the conversations that we are having in 2026. We need more action.
But one good news, just before you left, because we painted the picture of that. Also in this same Nigeria, that Kwara State is the only state in Nigeria where you have at least 50% of members of the cabinet being female. So I think
Kwara at the moment.
Kwara at the moment,
okay.
and it's a good thing that the governor of Kwara State is the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum. So I will say that other governors should take a cue. And other governors should take a cue from their chairman.
Yeah.
I think kudos to Kwara State.
Kogi, the former Kogi governor used to boast of something like that. So I don't know.
But the position of team is that in terms of female representation, Kwara State is the best. So on this occasion of International Women's Day, I think we should commend Kwara State. Yeah.
Okay, so good news from Kwara after all.
And commend what is happening there to other states.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, KK, thank you so very much. We really have to go. There's one more story that we need to take very quickly before we end the program. But thank you so much for joining us on the morning show.